Lastly, whenever we went to Wharton and came out of the court building, as you know, there were people waiting there and ambushed Nikki as she came out and hurled epithets at her and told her to never come back to Wharton, never show her face again. I was with her, and so was a representative from Resurrection Community Church, and we got to witness what that did to her, the devastation that happened after that, and we all surrounded Nikki, and Mark led Nikki and the group in prayer. And so I wanted to give Mark a chance to talk about that experience, what it was like during that, coming out of the Wharton County Courthouse.
And my name is Mark, M-A-R-K, Eggleston, E-G-G-L-E-S-T-O-N, and I'm the Director of Outreach at Resurrection Metropolitan Community Church located in the Heights. On the court date in Wharton, as Nikki and some of the folks surrounding her were attempting to leave the courthouse, a huge crowd of people from all around the courthouse, different sides of it, when they saw her exiting the building, were yelling rude, insulting things, pointing at her, and basically rushed over to where she was at. She was simply trying to go get something to drink and sit down and take a break from the proceedings from that morning. And people were shouting extremely rude things that I won't repeat, pointing at her and basically just surrounding her, yelling at her, pointing at her, screaming at her. We, at that point, went into a local restaurant there in the square and went to a back room where she was visibly shaken. And so we just took a moment to sit all together in prayer and basically pray for peace and for justice and for love and understanding from all of those in these proceedings. And I also have a statement that I'd like to make on behalf of Resurrection Metropolitan Community Church, as well as Metropolitan Community Churches from around the world. And we would just like to say that our community of faith fully supports the love that Nikki and Thomas shared and stands behind Nikki as she fights to preserve not only the memory of her marriage to Thomas, but also its legality and consequent rights. Thank you.
Did that photograph that was in the Chronicle result from what you were just explaining?
That's correct.
That's why you all were running?
That's correct.
Thank you for your patience. I'm Reverend Kristen Klein-Cecchettini with Resurrection at Metropolitan Community Church here in Houston, K-R-I-S-T-E-N. Her last name is hyphenated, K-L-E-I-N-C-E-C-H-E-T-T-I-N-I. I'm the Director of Life Development in the same congregation that Mark Eggleston serves as Director of Outreach. There is much that has been said that has been helpful to understanding the injustices that Mrs. Araguz is suffering and needing to respond to. I'm here not to speak in addition to the fine legal representation and other kinds of support that she has, but simply to say, as a person of faith and one who is explicitly committed to the way of Jesus Christ, who calls us to respond to justice as one that would be champion or advocate for those deemed by society to be the least among us, that we cannot be silent when those who are being lifted and scorned and denied proper and dignified humane treatment by our communities suffer through indignities, particularly during the time of loss and grief. It is something I would like to make clear that from my perspective, and there are multiple perspectives here, but from my perspective, the primary issue is being framed as Mrs. Araguz's gender. The primary issue is not Mrs. Araguz's gender. The primary issue is the greed and the selfishness of the people who are seeking material gain. the disregard and disrespect for Captain Araguz's wishes. He made very clear in life who it was that he was sharing his life with, and in death what it is that he would have hoped would have happened with his own material possessions. These wishes are being disregarded and disrespected simply for selfishness and spirit and material gain. That is the issue, and that is the injustice. To say that Nikki Araguz is a victim of discrimination, I think, misses a fine point. She is being victimized by the discriminatory actions of others who are simply looking for their own gain. And this, as a spiritual issue, is the one that I would think is most relevant. There are those who would lift up all sorts of understandings of whether or not Nikki's gender is appropriate or right, or a variety of things, using a faith-based perspective to defend their positions. I would just simply say that in the scriptures of the Christian tradition and in the history of the teachings of Jesus, he is very clear that God looks upon the heart. It is what is within that is judged, and that all are called children of God and welcomed. The question more pertinent in many of Jesus' teachings is, do we provide for those who are grieving? Do we provide for those who are in the midst of loss and are vulnerable? And so I would simply ask that, again, with my colleague and friend, Pastor Laura, that we would be, as people of faith, no matter what our tradition, very mindful that there is virtually no tradition which supports exploitation of others' loss for our gain, and calls to account that we would be just with others regardless, and that all could be provided for us.